people we usually talk with other people who build communities, who are some big people in community industry. And today we want to talk with an entrepreneur, first and foremost, who thinks of himself like Tom. In a recent tweet, you told that in the world of tech CEOs, you are proud to be a community CEO. And that's what we're gonna ask you what you meant, like in a bit. But first, let's introduce who is here, who is on the stream,
Yes.
who is talking to you.
Oh my God, I'm Lera. I'm nice to meet you. I'm producer, designer, editor. Oh my God, queen of this server. Oh my God, I'm so great.
Go on. Who else?
No.
What else do you do?
Everything I do, everything.
Yes.
Community manager.
That's why you're the queen of the server.
Can you compete?
Yes.
Can you compete with her?
Yes, I can. I will try. I am a writer. I'm an engineer. I am an occasional runner who doesn't run for the past 6 months. And
That's fine.
I speak 3 languages at least, if you don't count all the Slavic languages that
And
come
programming
with them.
languages.
And also, you have 1 million of hobbies.
And a cat.
And a
Not
cat.
that much. I'd say not that much. But yes, I have a cat.
Alegas, who the fuck are
I
you?
cannot compete with you. I'm just like random person, like, juggling the stream. Yeah. I mean, we have been competing like how many languages some people know. So like I sort of know 5. So like, hey, look, I'm trying to pretend also smart. But Tom, so we have just made a competition of who's the smartest in the chat. You are very welcome to compete with us too.
That's right.
It's a good
Try
thing to
to
be the
win it.
least smart one in the room, so I will take that role today very happily.
Okay, right. I mean, like, that's what smart CEOs do. But, like, hire people who are smarter than them. So, I buy your humbleness. But what did you mean by that in the world of tech CEOs, you're proud to be a community CEO? What does that mean?
First of all, it means that I'm really not very technical, which I wish I was, but it's just not who I am. I'm more about the people. So luckily, we've got extremely smart CTO at my company, and we've got some incredible developers and so on. But for me, it's not what lights me up. I love having those people in our organization, but I'm all about the people. And so, for example, 8 years ago, when I launched my company, we ran on like a minimum viable product kind of platform. And really, we started because we found great product market fit and because we forged an incredible community with our early customers. And as CEO, I probably shouldn't have been doing this work, but I just love it so much. I just went and made best friends with our first 300 customers. Like literally someone would send me a support ticket. I'd answer their problems, start chatting about their family, jump on calls with them, bring them together and get people making friends. Like that's the stuff that I live for. And it just so happens that we were able to scale that and, build a decent business.
That's I really like this approach, really like it. But are you sure you didn't watch our episode with David Spinks where we bashed him when he was talking about numbers? Are you sure about that? Because
I watched the first
maybe you're
half
just lying.
and I haven't finished it yet because I've had a crazy week. What was the thing with numbers?
Okay. Well, I was telling him, you cannot measure your friendships and communities about people and relations. And he was like, yeah, but there is supposed to be numbers and PowerPoint presentations. And we were like, no. So, we've been basically fighting for the whole episode with him.
I got that afterwards.
Yay!
I haven't read it yet. I haven't started it, but I'm sure it's great.
We can make a screenshot already.
We will make a screenshot. Like, look, David. But look, this podcast is about Tom, and I'm like, where do we even start? Like, do we start with design cuts?
Okay, Anna, start.
I have a question. Yeah.
Sure.
So Alex sent me your community manual like 15 minutes before the stream. Like he posted it on the chat, and I skimmed through it. I did not read all of it, but I honestly, I was expecting it to be very pretentious, like community talks, like, yeah, you need to be about communities, but here are 15 ways to make it like a sales channel for you. And then I skimmed through your manual. And I see things that resonate with me a lot. Like I saw there a part where you were saying that it's better to have a very engaged community with 100 of people than like a very big community with not as much engaged people with whom you don't have a contact with. I and
love
my
those
question
values.
is, yes, I love those values too. And my question is, does this came to you naturally, like during the progression of the growth? What was the journey from that? Yes, let's
That's a
build
really good question.
1,000 community.
Yeah. So what you're alluding to there is kind of that Kevin Kelly 1,000 True Fans model, which I love. It was a journey to get there. So I'll give you the very sped up version because of time, but I loved building communities growing up. And I mentioned in our chats on Twitter that I started communities even as a teenager for fun. I started an Interpol fan site, as in the band, because I was a nerdy teenager, and people spent their lives on this thing. Literally, it had like 250,000 posts. I think it got busier than their official forum at one point. People were starting like relationships internationally and friendships, and I loved it. And this was just for fun. And I did a few of these kind of things growing up, and I just like it was what made me happiest. And then as I got older, I thought, this isn't really making me any money. You know, you don't make money from a band fan site. So I was like, maybe this is just like a hobby thing, this whole community passion of mine. It's not a real business model. And so I started Googling, and I was like, how do I do internet marketing? Because they seem to know what they're talking about. And obviously a bunch of really sleazy stuff came up. Classic, internet marketing. It's got better, but like especially back then, it was like really sleazy. So I did learn some of the fundamentals of email marketing and funnels and all that stuff, which has served me well. But it didn't really sit right with me. And what they all were telling me was, you need to get traffic. That's the main thing you need to be getting. This was before social media and followers. They're like, you want more traffic. So I implemented the strategies that I learned, and I launched a blog in the design space. And in the first month, it got 100,000 visitors. And then pretty soon it was getting 250,000 visitors a month. And in its lifetime, it got 15 million unique visitors, which was crazy to me. And I thought I'd made it. So I was showing my friends, like, oh my God, look at my successful blog. Like, I must be successful, right? And it made like a bit of money. It helped pay through college and stuff, but it never became like a scalable, really successful business. And the engagement sucked. And when I dug into the stats, I realized I've got all these people and it's like a leaky bucket. So, the bounce rate was terrible. The time on site was terrible. I was getting tons of visits from like StumbleUpon, if you remember that back in the day. And the whole thing was just this hollow shell. And it felt, when I realized this, it felt terrible. It was like, oh my God, everything I believed was a lie. Everything these internet marketers told me was a lie. It doesn't matter. So when I launched my company 8 years ago, this is crazy in the world of like startups, right? Everyone's got funding and all these big lofty business plans and goals. I didn't have any of that. We were totally bootstrapped. My one goal was, I want to build the most engaged community I've ever seen online. That was the single thing I cared about. We didn't have revenue targets. We didn't have member growth goals. Literally, I was like, it felt terrible that no one gave a crap. And so I want to flip that. And I believe engagement is the answer and people caring is the answer. So how do I engineer that from the start, and made that my whole focus? So what did I do? Well, we found a product market fit, which people really resonated with, because if you serve a crap product, it doesn't matter how nice you are and how cool your community is, you're going to fail. So we got that piece first, but then we paired that with really, really deep connections. And to show you a model, right? Here's the typical model, that funnel, that triangle, which is like, we're going to get 100 people to hit your site, and we're going to convert one of them, 1%, to make a sale. And the more I looked at this, I was like, this doesn't make that much sense, because you're spreading your time, money, and resource for 100 people, and 99% of them are never going to do anything, right? They're not going to serve your business. They're not going to buy anything. So why are you diluting your effort? I was like, surely it's better just to figure out who the one is going to be and focus all your energy on them and making them as happy as possible and connecting them with other ones in your business, and try and get them to buy again and again. So, Lera, you mentioned about the numbers. Here's an actual number from our business. At this time, it was like in the early days. I think we had 40,000 people on our newsletter. And this is not customers. This is not like paying customers. This is free newsletter subscribers, like our main member base. We had 40,000, and on average, they purchased 2.2 times. So we didn't have a conversion rate of 1%. We had a conversion rate of 212%, I think it was, which is insane. So on average, every newsletter subscriber had bought more than 2 things. And that's because what we did with all of those early members was we went so deep. We built such a connection, such a relationship, and we brought them together in creative ways that it flipped the triangle. So it wasn't trying to convert a minority. It was starting with the minority, serving them so well that they bought again and again. They were super loyal. They told their friends and they brought other people into the ecosystem.
You're hypnotizing, and like you did you notice like Lera, Anna, anyone, myself, or like yes, Tom, please continue, talk.
But I'm still wondering when this like click for you happened that numbers are not that important. What exactly have changed your mind? Because for example, like I will tell for us, like Oleg had the same issue. He was coming with like, oh yes, we need big numbers and blah blah blah.
And the funnel and the triangle,
yes.
like.
And I'm like saying, you're telling me some bullshit. Like shut the fuck up. Like let's do it in a normal way. This is where like the click for him happened, but I'm wondering where is like
it
this.
Wasn't a click, it was a slap. Like,
slap.
A lot of slap. That's boring.
So being very honest, it came from good mentors, both direct and indirect. So there was a small gap between my failed thing of the 15 million visitors and starting my company. I found some better mentors. I thought, I don't want to listen to these sleazy internet marketers anymore. I want to find some better people. Yes. So I joined a community, a membership community for entrepreneurs called Fizzle, which was awesome. And I got free mentorship from one of the founders there because, you know, he gave me like a scholarship, basically. He was like, you seem like a good guy. I'm going to mentor you for a few months, I think it was. And he really, you know, trained me on this. And one of his principles that's in my book was you can either use your audience or you can serve your audience. And he's like, everyone's in the business of using, right? They're trying to get sales. They're trying to get likes. If you flip that into a service mindset and it's like, what can I do for my audience? How can I do better? How can I listen better? It sounds so obvious now and people are talking more like this in 2021. But this was 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. And it was like a paradigm shift. And another one, I know he's a controversial character, but early stage Gary Vee. This is before a lot of the stuff he's doing now. One of my favorite books is The Thank You Economy. If you've read it, it's freaking awesome. No. It's basically him talking about back in the day, before social media, you had the local high street and shops, and everyone was in a service mindset. Because if someone came to your shop, you remembered their kids' names, the local butcher or whatever, you had good chats, and that's why they kept coming back. And that's something that we've lost with everyone trying to go scalable on social media. And so we need to get back to the roots and things like responding to every comment, every DM, never leave anyone ignored. That's stuff that I still do now. And, you know, I've had a lot of points where I get 100, 200 DMs a day. Every single person, I get back to them. Often I'm doing voice notes and super personal touches like that. So yeah, it was a lot of that stuff kind of took shape right before I started my company. And then I took those learnings into what we're doing.
How do you have mental and creative capacity for all these people? And beware that whatever you ask, I will refer to one of the BizBuds episode where you discussed about that. So keep this in mind.
Yeah. Absolutely. So
he was listening to your episodes, so like be careful about that. He was coming to me today and yesterday, like, oh, I was listening to his episode, by the way. I'm like, okay, so
I got everything. I got a few. I appreciate the research. I got a few foundations, right, in how I like to do things with business. One is like just practicality, making things very actionable. I really believe in that. I hate the top level fluff, headline readers, just vague concepts. So I really like keeping things practical. I believe in, you know, just giving before you get, and try and give as much as you can, and serving people, and just being super honest and transparent and candid. So to your question and your point, I'll answer honestly about anything. Like literally, I'm here to open up. I'm an open book. And the truth was, how did I do it? I did it by becoming a massive workaholic. I did it because I was so passionate. And for me, I'm quite extroverted, so it energizes me when I'm talking to people. But I took it too far because I kind of bought into the whole hustle culture thing. And so I was so swept up in this that it became this vicious cycle. And it was basically the harder I worked on my startup and the more people I talked to, the better we did. And the better we did, the more motivated I felt to talk to people. And it got worse and worse and worse and worse. And eventually
but what about burnout?
Well, so eventually I hospitalized myself by doing this. I literally worked myself into the hospital. I crashed. I had to have major stomach surgery. I then thought I would be better, and I got chronically sick for over 3 years, like 3-4 years. Initially, I was on a liquid diet. I could barely stand up. I looked like an 80-year-old man. Like literally, it was terrible. And the whole time I had to keep running my startup because I had people where, their jobs relied on us, our customers relied on us. So I won't go like too deep into that, but let's say it was a bad few years. And that was the truth of it. So I had to get smarter. I had to think, okay, how do I make this more scalable? I had to aggressively hire because before I was trying to do everything myself. I wouldn't let go of control. So now we've got an incredible team. And now, we have community managers, we have customer service people, we have people in social media. And with what I do personally, I try and put restrictions on it where I don't work quite as hard as I did. I still work hard, but before I put myself in hospital, literally I worked 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for a year and a half. That's how I got my company off the ground. Like it was insane. And I don't recommend that to anyone. It's a bad idea. It's a really bad idea.
It's cool. Like, look, Lera and Anna are like hypnotized again, and like all the people watching, like, Tom, you're talking.
No, I just remembered funny story how like we have our own podcast, like Ohio podcast is just for paid members. So, and we like also we are recording some topics like, how to not to get burnout and like some other stuff. And once we wanted to record how not to get burned out, and we got burned out at that day, so we couldn't record this episode.
The irony.
So this is my favorite one. Yes, that was amazing.
Karma coming back to you.
Yeah.
And overall, I mean, like, when again getting ready for the show, like I'm looking at your podcast and it's like, wait, these are the topics we are discussing in our podcast.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the hell? Are we your fans or are you our fan? And
you know what it is?
So fun.
I want to be friends with you guys after this. I know we chatted a bit, but I got a good feeling here. I hope we're talking in 5 years time.
And can I double down on your message? Like again,
Yes.
like you were talking about like you working very, very hard and getting yourself to a hospital, and I want to get publicly credit to this person.
She's talking about me.
Basically, she enforced and prohibited me to work hard. And I was like also like the startup and the thing, and I was at the stage where I was for example going to a toilet, and then I stumble upon the bed and like fell down and sleep on it like accidentally, like until the morning. So we were at this stage, and then she enforced pretty much what you are talking about in the episode 58 of your podcast. There is a plug. So look,
It really has a
everybody.
directory of all your episodes. Like.
Which
Yes.
podcast? I had 3.
Biz
which
Buds.
one? Biz Buds. Okay. Cool.
Yes. And the vibe on the Biz Buds is very, very similar to our Ohio. And that was again like, what is happening here? Did we find like our twins?
Yes, that's very interesting.
Well, I really appreciate you digging into it. It's basically Mike, the co-host. It's like brotherly, like ripping on each other. That's the dynamic there. And I really like the dynamic you guys have here. What do you want to dig into today? So that's like some backstory. I'm happy to get like super practical, like whatever you want.
I have a very intriguing question for me, at least. So you mentioned that you have 3 podcasts, one side hustle, which is your community, and your business, right?
Yes.
So, and you had this very sad story about your burning out. And I wonder what your team looks like who you have on your team, like producers, social media marketers, how many community managers, what's the structure?
Yeah, so our team is about 20 people with my company. That is, I mean, all kinds of departments. We've got like accounts, development, technical and coders. product team, design team, customer service, community. That's most of it. With my personal brand, I said before with my company, right, I was so slow to hire. So we grew like crazy in our first year. We didn't hire for 10 and a half months. And even the first hire was part-time because I was so refusing to let go of control. Super dumb. It was very different by the time I started my personal brand. I was a believer in delegation. So my personal brand, I've been running at break even for like 2 years because it's not really a money making exercise for me. I just like helping teach people about community and stuff. So I got 3 part-time team members that help me with that. I've got a podcast and video editor. I've got a VA who helps with a lot of the social side of things and scheduling. And I've got a designer as well. And also now I'm in the process of launching a closed community for that. I actually just hired my wife, which is crazy because we got married and she has quit her job and she's coming to work with me to help with this new project. And she's gonna.
I really hope it's gonna be a love story. Really hope it's gonna be a love story.
I feel like I know a few people in the creative space that are married couples that are like really crushing it together. So far it's going well. We shall see. Maybe you'll have me back in a year and I'll be crying and have a horror story.
No, please be happy. Please be happy.
I'm sure. I think it's going to be great. She's awesome. So yeah.
Right. And I mean, I'm still thinking about, I cannot comprehend how a single person can keep so many projects and lead so many projects in their head. And how do you have, the mental and creative capacity for it all? But like, let's say you're superhuman. That's pretty much what you told. Like you can.
I got an honest answer. Okay, so it was too much. 3 podcasts was too much. So I dropped one. I dropped the one that I did solo. Then we put the other one on pause, and then we changed our approach. So we did season 1 of the Honest Designer Show, which was my first podcast and the most popular one. That has run for 4 years, 1 season, because we just cranked it out every week. And finally I said, enough is enough. We can never have a week off. We're getting burnt out on this. So now we're doing 12 week long, so 12 episode seasons. And we're having breaks of months off between them. So much better. So like I used to every week, I was cranking out episodes for three podcasts. And obviously a better approach is quality over quantity. And the quality had started to drop. Inspiration had started to drop. And so now I'm currently doing like 0 podcasts that are currently live. And we are about to launch season 2 of Honest Designers. And guess what? Because we had some time off and some time to think about it properly, we got 12 episodes. We got some of the biggest guests we've ever had, like super big people in the creative space, the best episodes we've ever recorded because we paused and we stopped. So I don't advocate. I don't want to sit here and be like, yeah, I'm Superman. I'm spinning 3 podcasts. I'm not. It was a bad thing. I stopped doing it. But what was good about it was I got super comfortable doing podcasts because I sucked at it at first and like everyone hates their own voice. But when you do 500 episodes, now it's nothing. Like this kind of thing used to scare me, but you can tell because I'm speed talking and not shutting up. Like now it's very comfortable.
In a very hypnotizing voice, which hypnotizes everybody.
And very nice microphone, finally.
Nice microphone. Yeah. But look, I mean, like the creative side, like the content creation, that's one. But leading the company, that's another one. And you told like about the company, like the design cuts. With lots of members, then you run these live events, and like right now, even after this podcast, like you're jumping onto a live event with people, and it's like people everywhere. And then you have Instagram, where you also are active, and Twitter, where you're active, and the Facebook group. It's like
how do you live with that?
Like how do you, like, is it, are there in like an army of clones of Tom Ross? or like
no, it's where you spend your time, right? So if I was a technical CEO or a technical founder, it wouldn't be that weird to people if I was like, I'm going to go shut myself off for 14 hours and code and build amazing things, right? I know a lot of technical founders who are working like that, but that's not me. I have done events where we're live stream for 10 hours like this, and I get energy from it in a weird way. Like I crash afterwards, kind of. But
how? How?
Because what's like I'm doing this, right? This is my side hustle space, but it's still kind of a job, right? How crazy is it that I get to talk to you, interesting, fantastic, fun people, as my job? Some people are in our office hating life right now. This is my job, like having a engaging discussion. What's not to love?
Can I pivot this to a community side of things? So with all the media that you produce, with all the side hustle, and your main business, which is design costs, from what I understand, like how, and then there is like this amazing community book that even Anna liked, and she doesn't like that. Don't take her like easy. Yes.
Thank you, Anna.
Yes. So it's hard.
I appreciate you, Anna.
And so how many communities
do
you lead, or do you have, or have you gathered around you? This can be a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be interested your guys' definition of community, because I feel like everyone has a different one. When you get really deep in the community space, some people...
What is yours? Yes.
What is yours?
What is yours?
This
is more important.
Yeah, I think the simplest version is the classic, like many talking to many instead of one talking to many. And I make that distinction in my book. That being said, I think it's interesting to think about a sense of community. To explain what I mean, at my company Design Cuts, everyone used to rave about the community. They said, oh my God, best community ever. I love being part of this community. The community is so special. And we didn't actually have a community space in the early days.
I wasn't able to find it on the website. And it's like everybody's talking about Design Cuts community. There is no Design Cuts community link.
Alec is fanboying right now. Like, I have not seen him this energized.
So this is interesting though, right? Because I'm like, why does everyone keep talking about the community? And if you go on our Trustpilot and all our reviews, like at least half of them are like, oh my God, the community is amazing. But especially at the start, there was no community space. So why do people feel this sense of community? And I think that's where things come in, like a culture, a shared sense of values, how you interact with your audience. Even if they're not interacting with each other, we would regularly be involving them in stuff. So, there was stuff happening behind the scenes. We had a group called Ambassadors in the early days, where we basically said, right, we've got a group of our core customers supporting us. We're going to give behind the scenes videos and insights. We'll show them how the company's running. We get their feedback and we implement what they want and that kind of stuff, right? So they felt let in. They felt part of something. And the whole time in our emails, in our ambassador sessions, we're always saying, we appreciate you. You're the best community. We love our community members. And we're talking to them like they're our community, because they are. And so when we started introducing things, like we've got several Facebook groups now, some which are very active. We've got our live events, which we do regularly, where people are literally making friends and chatting for hours and hours and hours when they're running. We've got a closed community at the minute, which is about to open up next month, but that's like going really well and that's super active. We've got all these spaces. But is it true that one day we had no community at all? And then we launched a group and suddenly we had community? I don't think so. I think we kind of always had this sense of community. And, a lot of people talk about this. I kind of believe community is the people, not the platform. And we had amazing people that were bought into our vision and how we did things differently. And we talked to them in an appropriate way that made them feel part of something bigger. I think that kind of is arguably community, even though it's not many to many.
Oh, Anna says, I'm fanboying, but I mean, Lera being silent and not bullying a man on the stream is her definition of fanboying or fangirling. Like, usually, like, she was getting ready for the streams, like, okay, what I'm gonna bully him for? And she found that. Well, I did. I did. But here's something, so Anna is your fanboy too. So,
do you agree though? What do you think about that? Because it's not strictly community, but it kind of is there, right?
Lera, here's the bus that came after you.
We totally agree about that. Like, we're talking about this all the time also, so that's true. I cannot argue here.
Anna, wanna be antagonist today?
I will ask a question that we discussed podcast earlier before like launching the stream, you said that you have a community on Facebook, and we here like hate Facebook unanimously.
Oh, that's true.
As a community platform as well. But you mentioned you had some experience, like positive experience with it. So
I'm not a huge fan either. Yeah, the one thing I like is discoverability if you get it right. And so I'll give you a very specific example. What don't I like about Facebook? Probably the same stuff as you guys. Like, it feels very rigid. You can't customize it so much. It's designed to be full of distractions, notification bells going off, ads. It's all pulling you away from the community. It doesn't look that nice. I'm not a huge fan. I don't really like how the feed and the contents are organized. So, a lot of downsides. But what is a good side? A good side is that there's a lot of people on Facebook. So it's very easy in terms of discoverability if you tap into the right areas. So what we saw was that at Design Cuts, there was a lot of interest in this iPad software called Procreate, if you're familiar. It's where you illustrate and that kind of stuff. And we're like, a lot of people are really liking this. And then we went on Facebook and we're like, okay, there's a handful of groups around Procreate, but not like a ton. And the ones that are there seem to be growing organically really fast. And originally we were like, oh, should we do partnerships with these groups and try and get in front of their audience? I was like, why don't we just build one ourselves? That would be better, right? Because then we have that as like an asset and it's part of our community. So we launched it, and we didn't launch it that long ago. It's about to hit 10,000 members. And we didn't push any of our audience to that. We literally set it up, and that's just people searching Procreate on Facebook, discovering our group and joining. So what that means is we now have 10,000 people joined and other people seeing the group who then get connected to our brand and come back and discover our website. So it's been like really beneficial for us. But that's about the only benefit. Like, I typically would never build a community platform on Facebook as my main community.
Yeah, do you want to wrap it up? Or Anna, do you want to wrap it up?
Yes.
Or do you want to, Anna, do you want to ask anything about the book?
Which book?
The one that you've been reading 15 minutes before.
After that, again, I want to be respectful of your guys' time. Could I drop maybe like 2 tips, which are front of mind for me right now? Because I want to leave the viewers with like very practical steps, right? So something I've been pushing a lot at the minute, especially as I build up to launching my close community for my personal brand, is vetting prospective members and kind of creating friction for them to filter down to the best people. So what I mean by that is I've got a very thorough process now where I share it. People apply for a wait list. They fill out all kinds of forms. I score various answers that are on the wait list to give them a total score and order them by that. I then go through those people, reach out, and my team reaches out. They have to respond, go through another exercise. Like, it's kind of this, it almost sounds quite arduous, right? This process of applying. But at every single step, there's drop off where people think, I can't be bothered, or I'm not going to get back to that email. So the group gets smaller and smaller. But what happens is the quality of that group gets higher as it goes through each step. So the people now, like, I'm launching September 1st, this community, the people who are now on the list, and it's going to be 100 founding members, they are literally sending video applications being like, please let me be part of this. Like, I'm ready to go. I'm going to be really engaged and really active, I promise. And my wife, who's helping me with this, she's showing me this, being like, this doesn't make sense. Why are people treating this like a job interview when they're going to be giving you money? Why are these people like desperate to prove themselves and get into your community when they're going to be paying for it? And it's really interesting.
Well, the same works in universities.
Yeah, that's very true. But I'm really like, I'm obsessing over this at the minute, because I feel like what most people do is they open up a community and they say, I want to get everyone in my community. And then it just fails and the average engagement stinks. And I'm deliberately turning people away. There's some people where they're like, they want to give me good money. They want to pay for a year up front. But I know from their interactions, they're going to join and they're never going to use it. So I give their space to someone else. And I think so much of the success of your community actually comes from the work you do before launching, whether it's managing expectations, getting people to kind of jump through hoops and prove themselves as engaged, getting like a verbal contract. That's a big one. I think many people, they join not fully knowing what to expect. So if you're having one-on-one conversations and saying, just to be clear, this is what you want from the community, this is what we're offering, and you're agreeing that you're going to be super engaged and you want to spend 8 hours a week in this thing, are we all on the same page? Yes. Then you stand a much better chance than just, hey, everyone, come on in. Let's hope this thing works out.
It's fun, and it's something that this young woman was pushing on me, and that's what she did to when she took over the community punks. And also, in very similar way, we think about our Discord. Like, Discord is the high barrier overall, and then we also have this questionnaire, and all. Like, people just don't see the channels beyond welcome. If, like for example, yourself, Tom, like you.
No, he sees because I gave him role.
But like usually, no. To see where people are, you need to.
Put at least some effort, so
right. Let me put this in a nutshell, right? And I'm going to write an article about this at the weekend. People are treating community like e-commerce because everyone's so used to how to do business online. I'm going to make it as low friction as possible. I'm going to make it super easy to get a good conversion rate. That works when you're selling a scalable product. That doesn't work when you're looking for a group of members that you want to really be active and participate.
Oh, can I use 10 seconds of our old time to rant about all this freaking product who are called the least of 300 communities to spam your product into? It's like, people, don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. This is very, very bad practice. Good. I have used 10 seconds of your time to rant. Lera, wrap it up. Did you enjoy? Like, why didn't you bully Tom?
Because we think in the same way. This is why. I'm like literally feel like I'm looking at myself.
But he's not a girl.
Yes, we can be all friends.
Usually you bully all the men on this planet.
That's fine. Today is good because again, we've been talking about people, that they're important, that the quality is important, not numbers, and I'm really into it. I really like this very much, and I agree with every word that you're saying. Yes,
thank
I
you.
really appreciate.
Anna, do you want to add anything, like, fun boy, fun girl?
Say that just from the language of the manual, the way you mentioned that there were these sleazy articles about sales, now there are coming out sleazy articles about communities, which make me furious. And the fact that there was no sleaziness in your manual, like that said, okay, this is good.
Okay, we're not going to bully.
I have an episode on my YouTube from years ago. It's called something like "How Not to Be an Internet Marketing Dickhead" or something like that. And in the cover art for the YouTube, it's me posing with like a Lamborghini, and like all this ridiculous stuff in the background. Like, anyway.
Okay. I will check it later. I will check it later after our stream.
Okay, so eventually you found the reason to bash you for. But like, look, I mean, people, there is a comment section.
Like, there is a comment
section down below. So you can either bash Tom or praise him, like join the fanboy club or fangirls club. And that was Tom Ross for you today. We actually enjoyed talking to him.
Yes, thank you very much.
I really appreciate you having me on. It's such a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.